The gameplay you're watching right now looks like it must have come out recently. Honestly, I would say this looks far too good to be a video game. At a quick glance, you could easily mistake it for real-life footage. What you are looking at is Assetto Corsa, a game that actually released way back in 2014, over a decade ago. When it first came out, Assetto Corsa was just a simple, straightforward racing simulator. I'm confident even Kunos did not anticipate how this sim would become so timeless. Many term this game as lightning in a bottle. However, the primary factor that made Assetto Corsa what it is today is passionate modders. They enhanced graphics, added real-time weather, massive custom tracks, and improved almost all gameplay systems. The original developers built Assetto Corsa as a piece of software that runs directly on your PC. No servers needed. Because of that, it will exist forever. You can boot this game up in 20 years disconnected from the internet and it will still work just fine. Now, pause for a second and think about another racing game that launched in that exact same year. Ubisoft launched The Crew. Millions of people bought it. They bought physical discs, digital copies, and paid full retail price. Fast forward to early 2024, Ubisoft turned off the servers, but they did not just end online multiplayer. They actively modified the game files to strip local licenses. They revoked digital access from people's accounts, rendering every single copy useless. If you put the Crew disc into your drive today, it boots straight to an error code. That contrast is the entire battleground of modern gaming. How did we end up here? How did we transition from actually owning software to letting publishers remotely destroy products we paid $70 for? For decades, the deal was simple. You paid money and you received a product. If a company wanted to stop supporting a game, they stopped making copies. They closed down official matchmaking. But the game itself remained yours. You had LAN support, dedicated server software, or at minimum a local single-player mode. Then came the live service boom. Publishers realized that if you own your games, you do not need to buy their next sequel. If you are still playing Assetto Corsa or Garry's Mod or Star Wars Battlefront from 20 years ago, you are not spending money in their modern ecosystem. You are not buying $20 battle passes. So they engineered a fix. They made online authentication mandatory. Even if a game is mostly single-player, publishers tether it to a central server. The moment the game stops generating a high enough profit margin, the financial department marks it for termination. They kill the server and overnight, the software dies. When Ubisoft killed The Crew, they thought it would go like every other shutdown. A minor complaint on Reddit, a couple of news articles, and total silence as players moved on to the next release. They were wrong. They accidentally touched off the largest consumer rights pushback in video game history. Ross Scott started the Stop Killing Games movement, and the core idea is simple. It does not ask publishers to host free servers forever. It does not demand free content updates until the end of time. It asks for one logical thing: give players an end-of-life plan. When a publisher decides to pull the plug on a game, they should leave it in a functional state. Give the community the server binaries. Patch out the mandatory online check. Let the people who paid for the software host it themselves. If modders can make a 2014 sim racer look like real-life camera footage without a single penny from a publisher, then the community can easily maintain game servers. The publisher just needs to unlock the door on their way out. So, if Stop Killing Games is that reasonable, why are major publishers fighting it so hard? Behind corporate press releases about server costs and legal constraints lies a very simple business strategy. The Stop Killing Games campaign gathered over 1 million signatures across Europe to push for real laws. In response, corporate lobbyists went into overdrive to kill the movement. We need to break down the excuses corporations use to justify destroying software. Their first excuse is that it is too hard technically. Publishers claim that removing online checks or releasing server software at the end of a game's life is a massive burden. That is simply not true. Look at games like Knockout City or Gran Turismo Sport. When their servers were scheduled to go dark, the developers put in the work to create offline patches and self-hosted server kits. That way the community could keep playing. It takes a tiny fraction of a budget to build an offline failsafe if you design the game with that goal in mind. Their second excuse involves licensing rights. Publishers say they lose the license to the cars, the music, or the sports logos. Because of that, they claim they legally cannot allow people to play the game anymore. That is a complete bait and switch. When a license expires, a company can no longer sell the product to new customers. It does not mean they have the right to break into your house and destroy the product you already bought. When a car manufacturer stops selling a vehicle, they do not send a tow truck to crush the one sitting in your driveway. The real reason for all this resistance is forced obsolescence. If the original game remains playable, people will keep enjoying it. They will not upgrade to the sequel, they will not spend money on the new live service pipeline. By destroying the old game, publishers artificially eliminate choices to force you toward the replacement. It is planned obsolescence brought straight into software. They want video games to be disposable subscription services where you own nothing and pay repeatedly for temporary access. Industry lobbyists pushed back heavily against European regulators, leaning on copyright arguments to stall mandatory preservation laws. They want voluntary guidelines instead, which just means letting them keep doing whatever they want. You will always find apologists online who dismiss this entire issue. They ask who does not have high-speed internet these days. That dismissive mindset is a huge reason why gaming companies exploit us so easily. Having internet access is completely beside the point. Even if I have gigabit speed, why should I be forced to use my bandwidth just to boot up a game I bought with my own hard-earned money? And when corporate defenders claim that mandatory online checks are necessary to stop piracy, just point them to The Witcher 3. It released with zero copy protection. It is completely playable offline without any DRM, and it went on to sell tens of millions of copies, becoming CD Projekt Red's most successful game of all time. High quality builds trust and drives real sales, not intrusive digital lockouts. This fight is far from over. While trade groups push back, consumer movements are gaining real traction. Grassroots efforts are forcing politicians to confront digital consumer rights. We are seeing real legislative discussions in Europe and new disclosure bills in places like California. The community is not waiting around for permission either. When Ubisoft killed the crew, fan developers reverse engineered the game's network code and built custom server emulators. Fans care more about preserving art than the corporations that sold it in the first place. Assetto Corsa proves what happens when software is left open, accessible, and owned by the players. It becomes a foundation for creativity that lasts for years. It thrives a decade later, outperforming modern releases purely because of people who love the medium. Every time a company kills a game, they are not just shutting down a server. They are deleting cultural history, erasing digital art, and taking away products from the people who paid for them. You would not accept a book publisher coming into your home to burn a novel off your shelf because a copyright expired. You would not accept a car company breaking your engine because a newer model hit the showroom floor. Stop accepting it in gaming. Demand offline modes. Support consumer rights legislation. Stop buying games that require an active internet connection for single-player content. If we do not fight to own our games today, we will not have any games left tomorrow.